Microphone check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Microphone check. 1, 2, 2. Just try to get this going. Oh, it started. Let's see. I'm pretty sure we're on live. He changed this fucking thing, man. Come on, let's go. Oh, I know that's low. I know he's gonna be like, what she said? I mean, Godcast, scene one, take one. Okay, with your chest. All right, clap it up. Yeah. Welcome back to Yanadameen Godcast. I'm Lord Jamar.
I'm Digga.
We got Team Yanadameen in the house. We got our live studio audience in the place to be right about this time. Yeah. Brooklyn in the house. We're here at the Black Lady Theater. And if you notice, we have back in our midst the ever glowing, a very tan, a very chocolatey Rod Digga is back. Digga! What's your motherfucking name? Digga! And you're looking chocolate.
Yay!
We like it. We like it.
I had fun. Shouts out my girl Foxy Alex.
Come upstairs. Be upstairs.
For her milestone birthday, she's officially over the hump now. She's the big 4-0.
Okay.
So give it up to my girl Alex.
Our sometimes correspondent.
That's right.
Here at the Godcast, although she hasn't been in our
fact
Brooklyn
checker.
location yet.
Right.
But when we was out in your state,
Yes.
Jersey,
Brick City,
she would come quite often. We love Foxy Alex. And once again, happy birthday to you. You're looking great. Listen, before we continue, I just want to tell the people, make sure to subscribe, click the bell, to like, and also, of course, if you'd like to donate to the show, go to cash.me/$Yanadameen, patreon.com/Yanadameen, Yanadameen.com/support, or bounty.com/Yanadameen. We just give you multiple ways how you could add on, how you could build with us. Because we're going to get into a little later about, revolutionaries being supported and not supported, and what that means is people have to make moves. But anyway, we'll get into all of that later. But Digga, how was your trip? How was Cancun after copying my move? Because I was just out in Cancun a little while ago, and now you're trying to move how I move. But anyway.
Well, in real life, we don't want to die in DR, so we all going to Cancun now.
This is true. This is true.
The first day and the last day was all ocean and poolside. Everything in between was hiking through the Mexican jungle. I got all kind of bites, cuts, scrapes, bruises. I was swinging upside down from zip lines. I did the Chichen Itza tour.
Now, I'm mad I didn't do that shit. How was it?
You did it?
I didn't.
Well, for one, it is excruciatingly hot. I mean, that is some other level of heat. And I have a revelation. I'm not saying I'm converting, but I learned things that give credence to the science of flat Earth. Now, wait.
Hang on.
Shut up.
Wait. Can I just get? We don't even have to do a whole room, but can just for me, my own self, can I just get a little? No. Even better.
Slow clap. You want to stand up and slow clap? Now.
Okay.
Go ahead. Let me just say this. I'm not all the way.
That's okay.
I'm not all the way there yet.
That's okay.
But I'm not so quick to dismiss it as a pseudoscience. That's all. I'm just gonna leave that there.
And we're not gonna press it anymore.
And to be honest, it wasn't even information that I was looking for, but I took this trip. You know, I was blessed by the shaman. I did a number of things, and
did some ayahuasca.
And
did you do some ayahuasca?
What's ayahuasca?
Ayahuasca is this like hallucinogen that like shamans would give
I didn't
help you. You know what I mean? Enter next dimensions and shit like that.
No, I didn't do that. Although it sounds fantastic. I need to look into that.
Speaking of ayahuasca, shout out to the fact that the little interns have finished their summer intern program here at the Black Lady Theater. Which is why I'm smoking a blunt right now off the ribbities.
Jamar could be more ecstatic.
Off the Euripides of us filming right now. Yeah, they was kind of cramping my style a little bit.
I can see it.
You know. We loved them though, you know, even though they was missing out on a couple of things, mics being off, people pissing in the background, shit like that. But you know, we loved them. Thank you for your service. Appreciate you.
And for those of you watching who don't know what a Chichen Itza is, it's basically a tour of the ancient Mayan ruins.
Well, we're going to show it right here.
Okay. Yeah, I was there. It's about 200 degrees out there. It's no shade. It's nowhere you can go to stand in shade. It's just the sun beaming on you. There's, they say there's like an electromagnetic force. I mean, it's just...
the place that it's located at is very special.
Right. It's
on a ley line.
Right. It was a lot. And yeah, and some information just, fell into
Well, it was meant for you to receive that because everything happens for a reason.
I think so. And shouts out to Alex because this was all her idea. And I'm like, what do you mean we going hiking through the jungle, girl? You see all that blue ocean water out there? But no, I'm so glad.
How was the ocean waves? Were they kind of rough? They were kind of rough when I was there.
The first day I did it was great. The second day I almost broke my neck.
Like they was crazy.
A wave literally knocked me off my feet, took my glasses, made me bang my head on the ocean floor. I was like, okay, I gotta go. There was a story in the news about a father of 3 breaking his neck. I'm like, okay, I see how that happened.
Right. Like seriously, the waves was no joke out this motherfucker.
It literally knocked me off my feet.
Well, speaking of took your glasses real quick, before we continue, what a segue. Shout out to my man Giovanni in the house. Just walked in. He's the one that called me real quick on the phone. And I couldn't interrupt the show to be like, come upstairs, but that's just what I did. Anyway, so speaking of glasses, my man David Ford, remember a couple weeks ago when Lady Luck was here, she had on some nice glasses.
Yes.
That was for my man David Ford. Now David Ford is a black fashion designer, I guess you would call him. And he has some eyewear, and he gifted us with some eyewear. So I'd like to give you your pair right now. And I'm going to break out my pair.
Let's see.
I've been rocking with this young man for a minute, and I got to tell you, he's stepping his game up as far as his packaging goes.
I like
these
case here.
Eyeglass cases.
Ooh, is this camouflage cat eye? You better.
I think he analyzed your style and knew what you would like. Just like he knows my style.
Wow. Camo marble.
Look at these.
You better.
Look at these Cazal-esque joints with the panther on the side. Let me profile them for you.
These are dope. Oh yeah. I'm rolling.
Digga.
Fresh.
You feeling me?
Fresh.
You feeling me? So yeah, check out my man David Ford. He's on IG. I'm sure you go to davidford.com and all of that. Matter of fact, hang on. Here's his info. David Ford Eyewear, yeah. Oh, www.dfceyewear.com. David Ford Eyewear Manufacturer.
Speaking of gifts, I brought something back for you.
What? Did you?
Yes, I did.
What the?
Straight.
You shouldn't have.
With the duty free on.
Wow.
Unable to obtain in the U.S.
You cannot get this in the U.S., people.
Hennessy White.
Hennessy White.
For you, my brother.
Oh, Digga, thank you.
You owe me $68.
I got you. Oh, this listen, thank you. This is very nice. This is something that will go to use.
I'm sure. I'm sure it will. It looked tasty. I trust me. I had to.
It's smooth.
I had to fend a couple of the homies. Get back.
Come on. What's that?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a thing right here.
I got you, bro.
Thank you. We're gonna sit that.
Sit that right there in between the newbie and
yeah. Because it might get some energy, like, you know what I mean, and just infuse it with positive energy from off the show. So, before we get to our next segment, because we got a special guest coming up, let's unpack it, y'all. What everybody, I'm sure, wants to hear us talk about and unpack and get to is this whole Jay-Z and the NFL thing.
Right.
What are our thoughts? How do we feel?
We semi-yelled this one out on the way
in
here.
The car.
Semi. Not as bad as Flat Earth and that rapper we won't speak of, but
right.
we were there a little bit.
A little bit, but not really.
Not really.
I've walked in this room before, like, drained from our car ride. Just like.
By the time the camera come on,
fucking Digga, boy. Oh my God, she's a fucking handful. No, today wasn't like that. I feel like, because I hear what you're saying. Okay, first of all, let's get into it.
Okay.
I want to know how you feel about it.
Before you unpack, let me unpack.
Before
first.
I unpack,
Okay.
let you unpack.
I'll unpack first.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in this outrage culture that we're living in right now, people are being too quick to rush to judgment and play judge and jury without weighing all the facts. First of all, we don't know any facts. The only facts that have come out is Jay-Z did a deal with the NFL. Kaepernick disapproves, and JD says that he was offered the same situation, and Jay-Z talked him out of it. That's all we know. Like, all we're hearing right now is all the prosecution argument. We have not heard from the defense. We've not heard from any witnesses. I just think that Jay-Z has a long enough track record of showing and proving that he is for us. Now, has there been missteps in his journey? Yes and no. People argue that the Barclay was a good thing, was a bad thing. I think ultimately we just don't know enough. And until we see what he does with this situation, I think it's too soon to ostracize him. That's what I think.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I'm not,
Cutting me off.
cutting you off. Digga couldn't even get her a goddamn thought out before Jamar came in and cut her off.
What I will.
That's how y'all sound.
What I will say, I'll just add and then I think I'm done. Unless you say something with this.
Which I'm sure I will.
I think that when you are making these power moves, sometimes, well, not even sometimes, it's just you can't always reveal your true motive out loud. I mean, if you look at the spook that sat by the door, if you look at all of these different instances where everybody just instantly gets upset at the outward picture, and then they see the end result, and it's like, oh, that's what was going on. Like, we just don't know what the end result is going to be. So I think everybody needs to reserve their outrage until we see what the end result of that is.
Cool. Okay. So now for me, I'm almost conflicted to how I feel. Like, because I'm not outraged at Jay-Z. But does this feel good to me? Like when this happened, he comes out and he does this whole, Jay-Z's working with the NFL, blah, 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 blah. What didn't feel good is when he said, well, we've moved past this portion of the protest or whatever the case be. We've moved past that. That part didn't really sit well with me.
It didn't sit well with Kaepernick either. That's he responsible for that.
But after all of that, it just seemed like, and that very night, NFL preseason football was on. And it seemed like in the subsequent days, football was on. Like the timing of this was kind of sleazy to me. What's known is that Jay-Z is going to have a hand in the entertainment side of the NFL, and he's going to have a hand in picking, and that includes the Super Bowl halftime artists and all that. That we know.
And that's what the NFL reported, correct?
Right. And that's also the job that he supposedly talked Jermaine Dupri out of. Now we know that. What's very ambiguous, though, is what exactly is he supposed to be doing or putting in place for the players to have a more appropriate place to protest these things. I mean, to me, that could be anything. That could be a little room with a video camera. You go in there, you vent. Like.
And do you think that's something that he can say out loud right now?
I don't know if it is or not. I'll
give you an
example.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, you finish it.
Yeah, some of the other things I just wanted to hit on was, yes, okay, having Jay-Z in the room with these football owners / plantation, runners. Is it better than to have him in the room than to not have him in the room? I suppose it is. I just don't feel that in a good old boys club like the NFL ownership and any sports ownership, or even if they do allow a black man to come in there in some shape, form, or fashion, is his word going to hold any influence over them? I feel like it seems like he was brought in because his influence is over us. His influence lies over us. We was the ones that's like, fuck that, we're not watching football. I still ain't watched no fucking football. So now it's kind of like, let's call in, you know, the man of influence, the man that made niggas put on button-down shirts and change from gold to platinum and start drinking from Old English to Cristal. Like nobody's had more of a cultural impact than Jay-Z, which for me is one of the reasons why he's the GOAT. But that being said, it just feels like that cultural influence is being exploited in this very moment. And the only one really benefiting from it, to me, it would seem like is Jay-Z. And, or people who fuck with Jay-Z. See now, if I gotta look at it from a different lens though, let's say I'm looking at it now from a business lens, okay? I mean, in a way, he does have a fiduciary responsibility to his clients that are signed to Rock Nation Sports, any of them that are in the football world, and as well as his artists and stuff like that. I mean, if that's an outlet where he can start getting checks from just doing half times of games all around, you know what I mean? And just putting a quick 50, 100 grand, whatever, in people's pockets real quick. That's cool. So I understand that side of it. I also understand how, you know, we as a people, we have this romantic thing about our, you know, about how we should move on this revolutionary shit, yet we don't want to support our revolutionaries. You see what I'm saying? Like Malcolm and Huey and Martin died poor. These people died poor. Like, we as a people are truly supporting them on a financial level. So you got people out here who's trying to balance the two of social responsibility and yet financial responsibility to themselves and to their family. Get all of that. So this is what makes me.
I feel like that's the real reason why people are mad, because they think Jay-Z is picking money over culture. And you know, I'll use this as an example. When he did the deal with Barney's, and you know, I was telling you about this earlier. He did the deal with Barney's, and black people was so he had a window, or you know, featured some you know, some clothing in there. And black people got so up in arms, like, oh my God, this stuff is so expensive, it's sold out, you're working with white people, it's all about money, you can't afford that, you're charging $100 for a Scully, and this and that. Everybody just has so much to say about this deal that he did with Barney's. And ultimately, he had to say in the song, like, yes, I got Barney's looking like VIM right now. Like, the ultimate goal was, yes, it's not for you. I'm overcharging these rich people that come and shop in Barney's, and the proceeds are going to a college scholarship fund. It's like, he shouldn't have to say it out loud. Like, if people just stop for 5 minutes and take a beat, stop being so reactionary and social media revolutionaries, and just take a minute and think like, wait a minute, this man has been doing nothing but 21 Savage to, like, he has a whole track record right now of you know, being of showing improvement and being for the cause, like,
right, but what you
and
do,
now,
you do the most recent is what matters and is what people remember. So you can have a whole track record of doing some great shit. You fucking, you know, you do some foul shit, touch a little girl, some crazy shit, and that's what motherfuckers remember you for. You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. All of that other shit is out.
But we don't know what he did. All we know is he did a deal with the NFL.
Right.
We don't know what he did.
We don't know what he did.
We know that all these players are still playing. We know that Colin Kaepernick reached a settlement, which he can't speak about.
And I don't give a fuck about Colin Kaepernick getting a job and all that type of shit. Like, that's not, you know, it's supposed to be why he knelt, okay? Why the reason that he had to kneel. That's what we can't lose sight of, ever. And that was about police brutality and just murder and racism, which is a great segue into our next segment and our next guest.
But sometimes,
but that's what it was all about. I'm not here to say,
I'm
I'm not watching football until Kaepernick.
I'm saying what it's all about, but sometimes the way to change the infrastructure is to get inside of it. There are people. There's always multiple ways to revolutionize. You have people that will say, "Hey, fuck sitting at the table. I'm gonna go make my own table."
Let me ask you: do you think the more influence lies Jay-Z over us, or Jay-Z over those homies? What do you think has more influence?
Of course, he means more to us than them. But
who has more influence?
But I also think that is something that's going to work both ways. Like, of course, the NFL know what they're doing, and they couldn't wait to ink the deal. And hey, Jay-Z's down with us the time football season.
Right.
Of course, that's what
y'all can watch football.
Going to do. But Jay-Z has to be more calculated. He can't say, "Well, guess what? Guess what, powers that be? I'm about to hire everybody." Like, he can't say it out loud, and I just wish people would just take 5 minutes to sit back and let the situation manifest before rushing to judgment. That's all.
And I agree with that.
And
I don't disagree with that.
And it ends up being a crock of shit, and all he did was make a bunch of money and then, fucking do. But right now, it's too soon to say that, I think.
Well, listen, man, in this world we live in, a lot of shit goes down. And we're about to come back. 30 years ago, I don't know if y'all remember, but 30 years ago, damn near today, a 16-year-old young man by the name of Yusef Hawkins was killed in Bensonhurst. Y'all remember Yusef Hawkins? Well, we have a director of a film done on Yusef Hawkins. That's the movie Wilson, and he will be back. When we come back, he does come back. So stay here, come back, Yanadameen Godcast. Yeah, clap out.
You getting soft on Jamar? I expect the Lord resistance.
Sometimes the times change. No, you said shit out there. You said what you said. It's not something to argue.
Wait, sorry. I just got back for a minute. I got it right there. Hello, everybody. They just walking through. No.
Oh, hello.
Hello, buddy. Thank you. She did that for me. I requested it because, we're just, step ahead of y'all when it comes to thinking and comfort and nurturing and things. Man, we sit here and just drink hot Kool-Aid all damn day. Hey. Hi. I'm not like now.
What is that?
I'm Godfrey.
There you go.
We go off 3 minutes now.
Yeah.
Okay, what's up? So we're gonna do like this, we're gonna do on right behind them. Okay, that's good. Like, I tried that. Yeah.
Sure. Hey, I trust you.
So right now it's zoomed in. So microphone check. 1, 2. Maybe he's here, I'm here, and then Digga and God free or something like that. No, he'd be over here.
Okay,
Or
you said here.
or over here, and us three. On me, Digga and God. What if we did this? See what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay. Digga's pro. I don't know. We do it. He do it. I could put guest, put him here, guest here, I'm here. And then Digga, you know what I mean? Or Godfrey, or put Digga there. Yeah, maybe because that's Digga's chair anyway. So put him here and Godfrey right there. Right. So that's the continuity. Okay. Yeah. And this is her side anyway. Right. So I said that properly. Like,
so who's where? Okay, so yes. Digga's where Floyd was, I'm where like Africa was, and then I'm where I was, and the Godfrey, and I'm there.
well, I already got my shit on this Godfrey chair. Yes.
Oh, I was sitting on the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not.
And
He's gonna do a mic check. There you go.
hold up. You're gonna sit right here. Yeah. What's that? Pardon? Oh. Oh, that's a great one.
So we'll make part 3, part 2, and we'll make this Friday. In the words of the great prophet J.J. Icefish, or the J.J. So, wait, I'm it. Okay. So maybe put this behind your ears more comfortable. Stick some. Right. Let me see what my bag. Hey, that was great. It was great. I'm 30% flat earther. Oh,
Yes.
just 30%.
No, you said that's enough. That's enough.
Okay. I'm all there. All right. Oh.
So what was it? Was it each that did it? The horizon?
Nope.
Yeah, how are you supposed to work?
You're supposed to put it over your head like headphones. Let me put it anyway.
Like headphones, so you see the arc up there like this? Yeah. Would that work for y'all though? Would it work for y'all?
Yeah, live would be good.
No, it was my height for money.
Or-
Came to the realization that it was
Is it better if I wear a hat? Because I got.
Yeah, let's do one away.
I'll do that.
All right.
You don't got to worry about that. Thank you. Did you make your glasses? Oh, they said Prada.
Everybody goes home. Hey, we got y'all on here. And we break up in segments. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We shoot like 3 different segments. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Full segment. So filming wise, this segment would be Wednesday, but we're thinking that we're gonna make this one Friday because now Godfrey is here. He wants to say some stuff about Canada.
Right.
Now we gotta be kind of do our topics up first.
Wait, that was that.
That's just kind of like everybody's seeing this on YouTube. I don't even know if he's
Oh, you said that out loud while you pre-recorded?
yeah, that's just kind of like everybody just seeing behind the scenes and chopping it up. Yeah, behind the scenes, that's it. That's what all real talk of it. Behind the scenes, when you hear two talking like King Jay-Z's when you hear. I hate that fucking nigga.
You just talking shit about Taylor girls on this.
Oh shit, yep. I don't know. I was actually doing it on camera. I'm like, we got some special guests coming at Jamar and like. Oh, it's funny, their mother sent me a picture that I took with her. Apparently, something commented that.
Yeah.
Oh, hey. Hi. But I think her daughter is maybe a third member that was a member. That she's not a member anymore. She had all of them shit to say. I'm like, hey, I'm glad I got this message from people what y'all outside. But I can't entertain shit. I'm trying to get salacious with it. She got a whole lot to say.
So this is going to be scene 3 then, right?
This is a yes. Yep. Scene 3, take 1. We're ready when y'all are. Sometime today, like right now, we all thank you. I'm making it up
It's essential.
You know what I mean? Black Fact. What's up, Black Fact for today? We read it right, discuss it, boom, 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 bam. And I don't know what, you know, be damn. I'm thinking, it would be dope if you ever know, check that shit, like, go on that person, that particular person bag. Wow.
You could do that.
I mean, you know what I'm
You
saying?
can have it on
Let's say-
Chromecast. You got Chromecast on your phone, the anything you got on there will go to the projector. And so we could just be yes.
Yo, Black Fact, bang. And even if it's like,
You got to have it ahead of time.
do it, you know, Black Fact, boom, this ain't easy. Eric Morris, like, pop. 18, how about that'd be Shaq, sick shit. It's all good.
Oh, this dude, man, from London.
That's how I love you, bro.
The love.
Everybody makes something bad to happen to you.
Chris, I came for you. Take her
No,
from the
she's trying
side.
to get mad.
Oh, what?
Tracy Morgan, TV.
Wesley Snipes.
Snipes is in it, but I'm saying, man, I'll play it.
Anything.
Let me get that. Get what's going on social media, man.
Remember when Cuba Gooding was sitting in the chair?
I wonder if they're going to bring that back, though. Cuba Gooding was the extra in the bar chair. Michael Jackson was the guy that was following Mr. Jones.
Right.
Eric,
That's not wrong.
probably.
Spike
His name's Spike Lee. Yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah. Remember Russia Hill? Russia Hill was signed. Remember the dude who was animals and stuff. So he take on Instagram, she was a girl sex. Oh, yeah. But there was a dude that was in there that he was dating, beat the shit out of her, and that's when Wesley was. It was the guy, he's real fit. He was went to the doctor. He's a baby. I do have to say that in the bathroom. I heard that bring him back. James Earl Jones, the white passed away. Had the cheese in the dude was about to be drank fries.
I'm to say,
Yeah,
it's so wild.
good. I didn't know. He's series. Basket. He's playing on baskets. He's still playing stuff.
Yeah, because you mix him up with Chris Farley, that's what it is.
Oh,
Chris
yeah,
Farley's
that's the way I was like,
fat and white fun guy. You know?
Louis Anderson, he's actually playing project right now. Yeah. All right.
We put it back up. Chef, wait, should I take a picture of continuity? Yeah.
I don't care about continuity here. Not like that. Shine. Oh, you doing this headphone again? ARP. Sure, we have others. The guy go. 30% off. I'm stressed. I don't think so. I don't think you can afford it, so you stop and call it back. Yeah. That's my deal. Exactly. We call it our Bobby Brown. Usher. Yes, please. So, hang on, we about to get my check. What's up? I was gonna say little cuts. I found some cuts. Oh, there's a bench right there. Yes, oh, sorry. Wait. Am I something? I got there something. There it is. Facing. Oh, nice. You know that for?
So, I gotta check.
You're in a new style of kung fu.
I'll look through that. Like, thanks.
Oh, hey! Come on, with
Actually, you know what? I'm saving this for our next debate.
when it's hot.
We got so just for a second.
So we got the hard man.
Oh my God.
That's like, oh, you want to like that? Like that? Like that?
Okay, I won't get to that.
Okay. Like, oh, what's going on? Walk in with Indians?
Wait, it is?
Yeah, but now it says it's on, but the quality is we don't know.
No,
That's not what we said. Hey, don't. Oh, and look how it lightning. It doesn't right after.
I
That's not what she said.
I said certain
You said
discoveries
That leads us to believe.
Our leading to believe that flat Earth is more than
And that our ancestors.
I say all that.
Okay. Because you was actually teacher. They wasn't looking circles. They was looking pyramids. Different planes, levels of planes.
Yes,
But anyway,
in 5 directions. Yes, north, east, south, west, and third. Yes. Everything.
what always is.
Turn into flat and straight up. Okay. I'm just saying.
Everything side bottom, like things go to the top.
No,
No, not yet.
See,
Oh, say it. Say it yet. She said, never mind.
But they also lead in the power of the spirit.
Yes, but a sphere and a ball are two different things. Okay, I can have a sphere, but a ball is something.
But a sphere is flat.
Oh, yes, it is. A sphere can be flat. Yes, it can be. What are you talking about? A dinner plate is a sphere. A dinner plate is a sphere. It's not a ball. But anyway, that's a whole other topic.
I'm gonna get my pressure up. Now I get my pressure up. Start flashing. I said 30 there.
It's okay. That's better. That's much closer to her. So we're gonna leave it at that.
Now once I get to Europe in 3 weeks, I'll be back.
Yeah, they'll brainwash you back into their bullshit.
I'll be back to being good colonized.
Like Copernicus. It's my name.
Hey, we ready to sound you. Right.
So everybody, you can hear this brother right here, right?
Yeah. The chest is good, but once you get hard out, you sit over there to make sure everybody's level.
My guy.
So let's roll. All right. That's it.
Is that right now right outside?
Yep.
One thing to check that.
Hey. That's great. It's a car on the roof. Oh, no, that was great. Somebody on the roof with a moped. That is old brains. I wonder if that is not cooperate today.
It's the humidity.
Yeah. That's why I got a little bit when I plug up some clean takes.
I seen that too. That shit is plugged in.
I gotta keep
Ready
sliding my
to
hand
go.
down.
You got that shit ready to go.
It's so natural shit is to do, man. Starting this way, man. Sperm.
Ah!
That timid.
White man's turn.
I know.
That's so great.
This is scene 3.
Scene 3, take 1.
Oh,
So we're not gonna. So Godfrey was already here, then, right?
Yes.
Was here?
Yes.
Because we're gonna do scene 2 after this.
And that's when you're coming.
Right.
You understand? We shoot
Yeah,
it
just
out
let
of
me know what I need to do, man.
We just gonna act like you already been here.
Yeah, as I was saying, man.
Yeah.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
Get together, man. Stop that bullshit, man. Word up.
Crazy cat.
Continuity.
And continuity. Uh-huh.
See? I knew it.
Tired of me.
All right, guys, sound speed.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Now we Godcast scene 3, take 1.
And clap it up. Welcome back to Yanadameen Godcast. I'm Lord Jamar.
I'm Digga.
Godfrey.
We got Team Yanadameen in the house. Clap it up. Live studio audience. We got YouTube live in the motherfucking house. And right about now, we have our special guest. He is a director. He is grandson of some famous people that we'll talk about a little later. I'm not even going to drop that bomb on you yet. We're gonna give that reveal in a minute. But he has a documentary coming out on HBO about Yusuf Hawkins. Everybody, welcome Muta Ali to the United States. Yeah, how are you, sir? So, Yusuf Hawkins. Yusuf Hawkins is a name that I feel I haven't heard in maybe 50 years. I remember on Brand Nubian's first album, Sadat X had a solo song called Chair Turning X Minor. And in that song, he mentions Yusuf Hawkins. And they were mad that he was smoking. That's what he said. They try to show false compassion, but actually they try to bash in our brains, further add to the bloodstains. But anyway,
Shouts out to everybody who had Yusuf Hawkins.
shout out to
I had Yusuf Hawkins.
you had Yusuf Hawkins live.
Yeah, he was like Chubb Rock happened? Chubb Rock. In
Rock.
TV, right?
Yes.
Yes. They had the Bensonhurst, Bensonhurst. Yeah, Yusuf Hawkins.
So, Yusuf Hawkins, for those of you that don't know, 16-year-old young black male who was murdered, basically going into a white neighborhood in Bensonhurst, a predominantly Italian neighborhood, where they were, looking at a car, looking to buy a used car or something like that, and ultimately was mistaken supposedly for somebody else that was necessarily a white girl around there, and these guys beat up and ultimately was shot twice.
Yeah, he got shot 4 times, but 2 times in the heart.
Wow.
Christ.
So he ultimately died. Protests came from this, and this ultimately, the protests that came about from Yusuf Hawkins' death actually helped to put David Dinkins, the first black mayor and only black mayor of New York City, put him into office and get.
He was in the middle of a lot
get Koch the fuck up out of there.
But then they put him in some shit. Because I was in Chicago at the time that whole Diggs stuff was happening. They were giving him hell. Like when we had our first black mayor in Washington.
Right.
They just gave him hell.
There was a lot going on that year,
Woo!
year 89. That was
man.
Raleigh,
Central Park.
Central Park.
In April.
Like
Yeah,
all of
wow,
this happened
right.
in one county.
That's fight
And
the
then
power
a few
comes out.
years before that, they had Michael Griffin, which was another part. What was it? Howard Beach.
Right.
And another similar, white boys chased the brother onto the highway where he got hit by a car. And this was all, evidence of the racial divide that existed in America then, and it still exists in America to this very day. So it's ironic. What's that? Good? So it's ironic, 2 years later, and, from the day of this taping, maybe 2 days from now would be the actual
Right,
August 23rd. It makes 30 years from the day of Yusuf Hawkins. So tell us, what motivated you to do the story, how you got into it, how it ended up coming to HBO. Let's start
I
there.
got invited to be part of the story because I did a documentary called Lights Essentials with Ruby D, and that came out in 2014. And Victorious DeCosta, who's in the audience there, he called me and told me about he had been working with Charles Darwin, one of Yusuf's childhood friends. Charles Darby had a dream about Yusuf, and Yusuf came to him in a dream and said, "Don't forget." So Charles, he's not a filmmaker, but he's a driven person, and he was like, "I got to do something." So he was reaching out on social media, eventually connected with Victorious, who's also a filmmaker. Victorious, he had liked what the project that I did before, and we all joined together. And my producer partner, Jamar, joined with us. So the 4 of us for a good year or so pushed hard, the whole bootstrapping thing.
Yeah.
Did your pennies together, getting borrowed money, trying to, and at that point, I was on the fence at the beginning because I was 10 years old in '89. So I had a child's perspective of what happened. And I'm not from Brooklyn, but Victorious is from Brooklyn, Charles is from Brooklyn, and my business partner is from Brooklyn. So I had a good cabinet of people to keep the story also positive in terms of people from Brooklyn. But coming from Westchester, I had to do my own research. I confused Yusuf with Yusuf Salaam because it was the same year. Yusuf Salaam from Amazon 85. And there's a great book by John DeSantis called For the Color of the Skin about what happened to Yusuf. And I read that. I had to decide, how am I going to dedicate 4 years? It usually takes about 4 years to get heart when you put me doing a documentary. How am I going to dedicate myself to this if I'm not fully in it? What is it about this story that's really going to make me commit to? And the first thing was meeting Yusuf's mother, and then meeting somebody tell their story. And especially when it comes to Miss Hawkins, she never really, at that time, she was grieving so heavy inside. She didn't, I don't think she had a chance to get it out. So that kind of, I was like, what, I got to definitely work 4 years to just, let's make this happen. So we interviewed them just on our own dime and interviewed Yusuf's friend Luther, who was right next to Yusuf when he got shot. And he hadn't talked about it in 30 years. He talked about it then to the legal people that he had to do. But he said he bottled it up for 30 years. So there's a lot of pain out there. And I'm like, okay, we got to give people the opportunity to get this off their chest and tell the story because it's relevant now, sadly, obviously, not only because people of color still kill for the color of their skin, but the denial was so heavy back then, the way the denial is so heavy right now.
Right.
Like people were saying, New York is the melting pot, and that's what Dinkins was kind of running on, that whole gorgeous mosaic. And really, people weren't really appreciating that because New York, there's a lot of violence that can happen when you cross certain borders. There's segregation in New York now, and there is back then, and that had something to do with how they prejudged Yusuf before he arrived in Bensonhurst and shot him 4 times before they asked him who he even was. So we pushed hard and eventually connected with the American Black Film Festival and Lightbox Entertainment. Lightbox is a multi-Oscar-winning documentary production company, and they helped us develop. Yeah, they're in London, and then they expanded out to LA. They've done Searching for Sugar Man, LA 92, all these dope films. And with them, we developed the film a little further and took it to HBO, and they were excited. And they're like, yeah, let's do it. You know, so HBO.
Right on
funded the picture.
HBO.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's my channel.
Okay.
That's my channel.
so it's official now. You know?
That's what's up. So you mentioned your first film, which was
Life's Essentials with Ruby D.
now Life's Essentials with Ruby D, which was about your grandparents,
That's Ruby D.
who are Ozzie Davis and Ruby D.
Wow. Do the right thing. 1989.
Right. Exactly.
Legends, ancestors. Wow.
Yeah, we created that. Unfortunately, my grandmother passed away like as soon as we finished that film. The day we finished the audio mix on that film, I went to her house and she passed away. But she knew the value of that film was not just tell part of me and grandpa's life story. She knew that in that film it features a grandson, me as the filmmaker trying to learn from a grandmother, and she knew that when people see that sort of love, that sort of intergenerational respect and exchange, she felt like people would really bond with that no matter where they come from. You know? So I'm really proud of what we did with the Life's Essentials film because it inspires people when we do screenings. I'm going to talk to my grandmother on film and see what she thinks about this and that. But we really focus on love, art, and activism in that film, which is what Ozzie Davis and Ruby D represent to a lot of people, love, art, and activism.
How was it to, come up under the aura of two, icons?
It's hard to explain because I don't think I had the opportunity to know what it was like until I was away from it, or to know what it was like till I lived a little bit longer to be like, ooh.
That was just grandma and grandpa.
It was for the most
Right.
part, and I guess that sometimes this is how it is. But when you grow, it's like, wow, these seeds that have been planted in me since I was a kid come from my whole family, but also inclusive of Ozzie and Ruby, and I think without them, I wouldn't have even said I want to do this project. My values have been tuned before I even had a chance to tune them up. So I think that is something that I appreciate because that's something I really didn't have anything to do with. It was just them knowing that that's what this young man is going to need. And they had 7 grandchildren, so the 7 of us kind of got, guided in a certain direction. But one thing that I feel that I think about most recently is their honesty. They were really real and honest and able to share their what they consider their pluses and their minuses. And I do think I picked up on that, and I think that's a liberating thing. And I think that they were courageous too.
Your grandfather did the eulogy for Malcolm X's funeral.
Right.
That's like that black shining prince.
Yeah.
That's
That's it.
Yeah, and Ruby D was in the Jackie Robinson story.
Yep.
She played Robinson's wife in
Right.
55, in the 50s.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
man.
Raising the son, the original one, and like you said, do the right thing in '89 when it came out.
So you grew up in New Rochelle.
Yeah, predominantly a little bit in Mount Vernon, but I was like 5, 7. So.
Right, okay. So I grew up in New Rochelle as well. Now, your grandmother and grandfather's house,
Yeah.
you probably didn't know this, but basically was right behind where Sadat grew up at. Where Sadat X from my group, he grew up, they were on Cortland Ave, he's on Hunter Ave, which is right behind him. And I remember that, that was a thing out with D and I. They live right there,
Did he ever stop by or nothing? Like,
Ain't nobody just ringing the bell, like, hello, like, you know what I mean? I know Farrakhan and them.
Beyonce, New Rochelle.
Farrakhan used to live in a house over there as well for a short period of time at one point.
he's in the film too.
And just being from New Rochelle, you just take pride in little shit like that. Like, you don't have to know them. Just knowing that Farrakhan lived in New Rochelle and that Ozzie Davis and Ruby D, you know what I mean, was living in New Rochelle. That's something that we took pride in because, their neighborhood was a nice neighborhood, but it wasn't that far from the hood. You know what I mean? So, yeah, we definitely took pride in them coming from New Rochelle.
Absolutely. And it's funny, doing this project, you put a lot into the film and then you got to trim it down. And there was a scene in it about Eleanor Bumpers. You remember?
Yes.
She was murdered in the Bronx.
Yeah, by the
65
police.
years old. The police kicking her door and shot with some shotgun. And I'm looking, just doing minding my business and making this film. And I'm looking at archival footage at her funeral. And I see, that's Grandpa and Grandma Ruby at the funeral. Like, they were there representing and supporting the people, like, just like on a regular, every
Yeah,
day,
they
like
were
not
like
even
active.
for like the
They
big.
were bigger than just artists. You know, they were activists. They were poets. They were a lot of a sign over there that you bought.
Oh, I'm glad you pointed that out. So, in honor of Yusuf, we are campaigning to change Verona Place. Like, Verona Place, that's where Yusuf's mural is now.
Okay.
This time, we
Right.
want to change the name of the street to Yusuf Green Park.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're hoping to get everyone.
How can we support you? How can the people? Is there a petition or something like
There's a
that?
petition. We're getting the community board to get behind us so they can understand that people care and this is an important thing that they should get behind.
Is there an online petition? Because we have thousands of viewers that I know for a fact would be ready to sign this
If
petition.
you go and you follow Storm Over Brooklyn,
Okay.
then you'll be able to find out everything and get your hands on the petition.
Once again, Storm Over Brooklyn. And that's the name of the documentary.
Right. Yeah, the full name is Yusuf Hawkins Storm Over Brooklyn, but all the social media is Storm Over Brooklyn.
Okay.
Instagram, Twitter.
Okay. Follow Storm Over Brooklyn. StormOverBrooklyn.com, you said as well?
No, not that.
Okay.
Not yet.
Ain't get that much yet.
I have a
Servers
question
and shit.
about the
Yeah.
documentary. Did you get a chance to speak with any of the assailants?
I spoke with Joey Farmer, who's in prison right now.
Mm.
He's the one person in prison right now for Yusuf's
He's
murder.
the actual shooter.
See, the thing that makes it not as clean as I would like it to be is he's not in prison for shooting. He's in prison for second-degree murder, and it's not as the shooter. It's depraved indifference. Depraved indifference to murder is the term. And I'm not a lawyer, but it's basically you were participated in
Right, you didn't
some
do
act.
nothing.
Yeah, you didn't do anything to stop it. So no one is in jail, and no one ever has been in jail
For the actual,
shootings.
wow.
And that's what Yusuf's father was saying in the press a lot back then. You know, like you think that there's justice, but there's not. There was 30 people who surrounded, and one of them ended up shooting Yusuf. But I can see another case if there was some other other color 30 people surrounding somebody and that person got killed. You know, you have acting in concert. You have felony murder. You know what I'm saying? There's reasons why more people should have been.
Yeah, well, it's Central Park 5. Right? They all did. You was in the park that day. You come with us. If you wasn't in the park, you too. Like they surrounded everybody.
So you did this over the course of 4 years?
No, it actually, once we got the budget, it was 1 year. We were very quick with that.
Okay.
I came on board in 2016. Victorious and Charles, I think, have been doing it since 2015, I believe.
Okay.
So, yeah, 3 years.
Right. So you're doing this documentary, and as you're doing this, you're seeing a lot of things going on right now that are reminiscent of this story. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Of how, 30 years later, it seems like not much has really changed.
Right. I think about it a lot. I mentioned denial earlier, and I think that's what allows things to continue. Is publicly we allow people to just deny the existence of something that's deadly to us. And I don't mean just they say racism 2.0 is to say racism doesn't exist, right? But it's not only just racism. It's look at a map of all the boroughs of New York City. If you look at a New York Times article about mapping segregation. There's lines.
Right.
Where black people live,
Red
white
line.
people live,
Yeah,
and
red
that
line,
still
that's right.
exists today.
Mhm.
And the segregation is even worse in the school systems now. So that, if you add that with the fact that we have economic disparity, and if you add that to the denial that racism exists, you're gonna have a bunch of people who feel entitled to treat other people any sort of way that they want, and racism is not condemned as it should be publicly in all communities, So it opens the door for things like this to happen. And a lot of the peak population that lived in Bensonhurst migrated to Staten Island. And that's where.
And I live on Staten Island right now.
So you feel any of that?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Fucking
moolies.
Like
The
you gotta
fucking
understand
moolies.
when you ride around Staten Island, you see all these blue ribbons, and because that's in support of the police, and it's definitely a racist climate in Staten Island, but I can't say I've had anybody ever say, "Oh, you nigger" to me, but you know, it's definitely, and you see the redlining out there. You
Yeah.
see, like, one side of the expressway is where the white people live at, and then on the other side, you know, when they talk about the wrong side of the tracks, in Staten Island is the expressway, Staten Island Expressway. You live on one side of it, towards the North Shore, that's where the black people, towards the South Shore is the white people.
The
So,
Italians.
the
And
funny
Italian,
about
what's so
it-
funny, the Italians, when they came, you had to see PBS. The Italian American PBS, you know, Ken Burns, the best documentary maker, Ken Burns. You have to see the PBS Italian American saga because it's so good. When they got here, they looked like they were from India. Dark. Dark. They were dark. They were treated like shit because they're now fully white. But then once they got here, they could sign, you're white, you're white, you're white. So then they got the privileges of being white. They were living in the ghettos first, like with the Irish.
Right.
You know what I mean?
What happened to them, though, they kind of blame on black people.
Yeah, everything is blamed.
They say, you know, but it really happened on, they didn't understand the macro forces that were involved with it. If they bought a house and they put all, that was their nest egg, and then black people moved on the block and they saw their house go down in value,
Right.
they'll just think, oh, it's because of the black people. They don't understand that there's these banks, there's these loan companies,
Right,
there's
that's
public
creating
policy.
that.
Right, and people like Ed Koch who prioritized expanding his tax base, which means catering to the people who are wealthy and ignoring the people who aren't wealthy. All that combined, it divides people so much. And if I'm white and I'm angry and I'm going through some tough times and somebody's telling me it's these black people and I'm not thinking, then I might have some hatred in me, you know, that doesn't get resolved if everyone around me is like, oh, they're racist. They don't condemn racism and they let things slide. So then you have people. There was a Deshaun McKenzie. There was a little 16-year-old boy in Staten Island who got killed in 2016, chased by a bunch of white people. And it's like, it just happens, and it is what it is. But no one really stops the lies. The lies keep happening. And
We actually did a show a couple of weeks ago, Nature versus Nurture, where it's my belief that the way racism is taught generation after generation, that it just becomes natural. It's almost like even you can have the purest intentions on the planet, and it's just you just see certain things and just hear certain things all your life. You just grew up believing like this is what it is. This class of people, this race of people are inferior, and it's okay to treat them however.
I will answer your question more fully. There's another brother. There was a black man there and was friends with the white people in Bensonhurst who surrounded Yusuf. And he participated in the film. And that was an interesting interview, so I look forward to people commenting on that. But I gotta say that it's not a monolith out there, and it's complicated, But what's not complicated is the only reason they stopped Yusuf and his friends because they were the only black people around. Everything else is complicated about rumors about dating or about who in this group was actually racist, who in this group actually intended to kill, who was just there because their friends were there. Bottom line is that group only surrounded Yusuf and his friends because of the pigment of his skin. And that's what you probably never guess. You remember the original cartoon movie of the Transformers?
Yeah.
Okay, so that came out when I was like 4 or 5 years old. And my father took me to that film. And when I left, I started crying. He was like, what? What is wrong? I said, I want the Transformers to be real. And he was like, what? He was like, he said, go be an engineer is what he said. Be an engineer. So I went to engineering school, undergrad.
This ain't gonna help me
But
make
I'm
the
like,
Transformers.
I think I want to make films.
I'm gonna make my own Transformer.
Yeah, so like I think it was. I was so
Let's find out.
that's
That's what you got into. You still want to make the Transformers?
I think
If you could
Michael
make a
Bay
Transformer if would you?
Hell
If they
yeah.
said, here you go.
Yeah, as long as they don't do that whole that weird stuff they do with the characters, like that whole culturally.
Oh,
They
you're
got
into
some
it
weird-
like that. Like, don't fuck it up.
Which one? The one where they had Jan?
Yeah, they got the characters talking all black.
And he was like, this, what's up, homie?
Right.
And he got killed first.
Yeah,
You
as
know
long
that
as
shit?
that's not
He's
happening.
like, the black Transformer was killed first. We can't even be a fucking Transformer. Remember he was like, calm down, Ironhide. He's like, what's up? That's my man, Chad. What's up, homie? I was like, oh no. And then that Decepticon said, then the guy goes, you want a piece of me? I want the whole thing. I said, the black Transformer got killed. Ain't that a bitch?
Right.
Did they have a Japanese model?
Well, I survived the horror movie.
And he actually went like this too.
I was so much. Like,
You're an anomaly, Digga. You know.
Damn, we can't
but
even transform it.
it feels good to be moved by artwork, and I'm like, I was inspired by that. Okay.
Say fucking transformer. Come on, Chess, my homie, Chess. Oh, that made me so angry.
That's great.
Now, question for you, Musa.
Yes.
Do you feel like, I feel like when this happened, when Amadou Diallo happened, it seemed like these were like these rare occurrences and these names like kind of jumped out at you. Whereas now, because of social media and camera and you're seeing so much of it, it's almost like, wait, who's the guy that got shot by the cops last week? What was his name again? It's almost like now it seems like it happens every day. Do you feel like this was always happening and now we're just seeing, because of social media and everything being recorded, now we're just seeing more of it, or is it happening more now? What do you
I would say we're seeing more of it. I'm a fan of Brian Stevenson and his Equal Justice Initiative, and I think I haven't gone down to see the museum, but he's putting markers, from what I understand, around all trees where black people, men and women, were lynched. But there's no cameras back then, so I'm sure if there was, that's just a lynching, let alone shooting and all stuff like that. So I'm more than confident that it's been going on. But I think what I get worried about when it comes to social media is that whole cycle that happens where I get upset and then I don't do nothing or whatever. Like I feel helpless, impotent is the word. I'm only able to get angry, and I know I go on engineering school. Instagram and Facebook love it when people get angry because that means you're just gonna use their software more or whatever. And then what am I really doing to make a difference? I feel like what we've done with this film is at least giving the family that opportunity to get their voice out. Because what's different about this story as opposed to other stories, including black people get murdered, is we get to see what happens to the family when the family decides, okay, my murdered son is gonna be as an example, so that we see what happens to black people in New York. That put Yusuf's mother in a position where she couldn't just mourn privately, mourn for the loss of her son privately. She's out there marching in the neighborhood, surrounded by these people yelling nigga to her, but she could be at home crying, And so we get to see a little bit more of an intimate perspective on the family's journey.
All right, well, listen, we thank you for coming. Listen, Muta Ali, Storm of Brooklyn. Storm over Brooklyn on all social media, yes. But it's called Yusuf Hawkins Storm over Brooklyn, and it will be on HBO. We don't have a set time yet, but it's coming. Check them out. Clap it up. Woo!
Let's get that street. Get that street.
Sign a petition, y'all. Sign a petition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully this comes out before the documentary.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
We still fixing it up.
Yeah, the editor's been texting me while I was here.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
What? That's yours?
That's it.
Oh man, I appreciate you, bro.
Hey, thank you, bro. I appreciate you, man.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for
coming.
Oh. Shabi, thank you for hooking us up.
Dope, brother.
Yeah.
Hope to hear from you again. You know what I'm saying? Get you some awards and shit.
Yeah, shouts out HBO.
Yeah, let's take a picture before you leave.
Even though there was one article I said annoyed me, it was like, as part of our diversity
Initiative.
As part of our diversity initiative,
I'm so
tired. We'll start the article out with that.
It's part of us giving a chance to black people.
Yeah, we let this guy make our
Even though Death Band made HBO #1.
Right.
For years. It was the highest ranked show ever. What? Yeah. I believe it. Def Comedy Jam before Game of Thrones and The Wire.
Right here, y'all.
And The Wire was the best. Dude, they didn't win any awards.
Fuck.
It's too brown. Really? They didn't win any awards. wired and shit.
Oz ain't never win nothing.
Yeah, all the black dudes were killing it.
But those was the joints that pulled people in.
Yes.
That made you watch.
It's like the WB when they had all the black shit, then they got their parties and they kicked off.
Yep. I'm trying to take this microphone off.
Everybody's in.
Sir.
Cool.
Whose camera is that? Is your camera?
Hi, Jay.
3.
Here it is.
one chair out.
That's play to play. Killing it. Killing it. Like, the flavor. Yeah, boy. Now watch him. Oh, he's crazy. Like, watch, play this. I'm gonna put them on. He can play them too. Watch.
Look at this, the sunniest you want to be now.
That's for the. Yeah, Pete, I was going to thank you.
Huh?
I want to thank you.
Oh, thank you, brother.
All right, peace.
Peace.
Thank everybody.
Let's go. How you? Yeah, I'm great.
He's multi-talented. Blake, look at this shit. I just looked it up.
He's the one that booked the brother today. God.
Oh, that's Forrest Whitaker doing opera. This is crazy. Forrest Whitaker doing opera. He studied in college. Yeah, it's a train. Remember the acting studio? It was a. Where he could sing. That dude with his train. He had the fact that they could do everything. He sang, he danced.
Oh, we do got the.
Jumped on one leg, son. Lamont, he's a trained ballet dancer.
hey.
Nice.
Hey, guys.
Nice. Lamont, Demond Wilson, who's a preacher now. He's pop, nasty.
did not know that.
Dog, these cats are tech. You just be like,
Wow.
yeah, man.
Well, all of those people on Sanford and Son are like
We're
shooting
super
circuit.
sound. Right.
Yeah, it's like
Right.
Esther,
But all of them were all the chicken circuit
Yeah.
guys, but they all were trained, like they could sing, they had to do all that
Brady,
shit back then.
all the niggas.
Man, word.
You know he stuttered like a motherfucker, right? Oh, they say he still stutters. He can control.
Now watch. Now this is a young Paul Mooney, his first stand-up on TV. Watch how he up this. Good looking motherfucker.
Gay as a motherfucker.
Like this. That was Richard Pryor's right-hand man.
And he said,
I mean, these motherfuckers are pioneers, bro. Like, woo! What year was that? 71, 72, 1842.
All right, come on. Let's get it popping. Last one.
All right.
Let's shoot this puppy. Let's shoot this fucking puppy, huh? Yeah. What?
This is going to be season 2, right?
Oh. Here we go. Here we go, yo.
Look at him over here doing.
So what?
I said, look, the earth is round, Jamar gonna kill me.
You believe that? I don't know.
Now I don't know. I'm all confused.
Listen, I'll teach you one day.
No,
I'll sit you down.
No, I was just telling him on my trip to the Mayan ruins, I learned some things that could possibly be pointing in that direction of the Earth being flat.
I was in Mayan.
But I'm not fully
Was it
convinced
fantastic?
yet.
The Mayan ruins?
So,
Hot. Oh God, it was so hot.
that's all you remember about it? You didn't feel no spiritual connection?
Hell no.
It was just hot.
I felt
I
hot
felt
flash.
mosquitoes and sun.
I felt hot flash.
Think about how hot they were back then,
That's
building
what I
them
felt.
pyramids and shit.
Hot flag. All right. Where am I? Not. Here your Diet Pepsi.
Thank you, brother.
Don't let me forget this.
Wait.
Is that my drink? That must be my drink.
No, that's my Coca-Cola.
Your drink.
You want your fans?
Yes.
It was like, oof. I don't know
Excuse
why.
me, let me
You
check
know, I went to
this
one
out.
of these old bogus ass stores where they have shit else, but they have Pepsi.